A low hum vibrated through the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, a Terran diplomatic cruiser stationed at the Galactic Core. Ambassador Elias Voss sat in his command chair, staring at the holographic display before him. His chiseled face was calm, but his fingers drummed a slow, steady rhythm against the armrest. Something was wrong. The Galactic Concord had held for 3,000 years, an unprecedented peace between thousands of species. War was a relic of history, and humanity, one of the younger races, had only ever known peace. It was an age of prosperity, of scientific advancement, of boundless exploration. Yet, something in Elias's gut told him that peace was a fragile thing, easily shattered. Ambassador, we are receiving a priority transmission from the High Council of the Galactic Concord, said Ensign Reina Vasquez, her voice betraying an edge of unease. Patch it through, Elias said. The holographic display flickered, revealing the grim face of Chancellor Zerval, a reptilian Zevran known for his measured words and unwavering diplomacy. But today, his vertical pupils were narrowed, his spiny crest flared in distress. Ambassador Voss, Zerval said, his voice clipped. I regret to inform you that the Concord has been broken. The Vraekthar have declared war. The words sent a ripple of shock through the bridge. The Vraekthar were an ancient warrior species, but they had been one of the Concord's staunchest enforcers of peace. For them to break it now? Unthinkable. Elias exhaled slowly. Do we have details on their demands? No demands. No ultimatums. Only a single message broadcast across the galactic network. The age of weakness is over. We reclaim the stars with fire and blood. Zerval's eyes darkened. Their fleets have already begun mobilizing. Silence hung in the air. Ensign Vasquez clenched her fists. Lieutenant Harrow, their tactical officer, muttered something under his breath. How are the other races responding? Elias asked, his mind already working through possibilities. Most are in shock. Some are calling for immediate surrender. Others want to negotiate. But we know the Vraekthar. There will be no negotiations. Zerval's expression hardened. The Council is convening an emergency session, but we lack a unified strategy. We must know, where does humanity stand? Elias felt the weight of 1,000 years of diplomacy pressing against him. Humanity had thrived within the Concord, but they had never been tested in war. The other races had seen humans as innovators, traders, explorers, never warriors. He tapped his fingers against his armrest, once more before standing. Humanity does not kneel, he said simply. We stand. Zerval studied him, his reptilian gaze unreadable. Then I pray your people are ready, Ambassador. The Vraekthar come for us all. The transmission cut, and silence reclaimed the bridge. Sir, Lieutenant Harrow said, his voice tinged with something between amusement and disbelief. Did you just commit humanity to war? Elias sighed. No, Lieutenant. The Vraekthar did that for us. Far beyond the diplomatic corridors of the Resolute Dawn, deep within Sol's military command, Admiral Helena Darrow sat in a dimly lit war room, surrounded by the finest military minds humanity had to offer. A massive galactic map floated in the center of the room, displaying red streaks pushing outward from Vraekthar space. The enemy's forces were vast, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. The Concord's fleets, spread thin and untested, were already scrambling to mount a defense. Darrow steepled her fingers. 3,000 years of peace, she murmured, eyes scanning the hologram. 3,000 years of complacency. They think we're weak. General Alexei Kovalchuk, head of the Terran ground forces, let out a low chuckle. Well, aren't they in for a surprise? Admiral Darrow turned her gaze to the officers assembled around her. The Vraekthar believe humanity is soft, that we lack the stomach for war. But they have never seen what lies beneath our diplomacy, our treaties, our negotiations. They have never seen us fight. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Humanity's history was bloody, filled with wars that had shaped them into what they were today. We will not strike first, Darrow continued. But when they come, we will remind the galaxy why humanity has never lost a war. On the fringes of Vraekthar space, aboard a dreadnought looming over the Concord's border, Supreme Warlord Zarnak watched the battle preparations unfold. His warriors stood ready, weapons gleaming, their crimson banners unfurling in the artificial breeze of the war chamber. Zarnak's second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Ulkash, approached. The humans have declared their intent to fight. Zarnak let out a deep, guttural laugh. They are a race of diplomats and traitors. They have no idea what true war is. Yet their response was immediate, Ulkash pointed out. They did not hesitate. Zarnak's laughter faded. He had expected fear, stalling, perhaps even outright surrender. But humanity had answered with defiance. Intriguing. No matter, Zarnak said, dismissing the thought. When we crush their first fleet, they will beg for mercy. The humans are merely another footnote in our conquest. Yet, as he turned back to his war table, a sliver of doubt crawled into his mind. He had underestimated foes before. He had survived by learning from such mistakes. And something about humanity's response unsettled him in a way he couldn't quite explain. For the first time since the war began, Supreme Warlord Zarnak hesitated. The moment the Vraekthar's war declaration reached the galactic network, the response was immediate, but not the one they expected. Across the hyperwave channels, laughter erupted. Human diplomats were seen wiping tears from their eyes, shaking their heads, and leaning back in their chairs as if they had just heard the greatest joke in history. News outlets in human space played clips of the Vraekthar, Supreme Warlord's thunderous declaration, splicing it with comedic sound effects, mock translations, and slow-motion replays of his furious snarl. The Vraekthar, a species forged by war and conquest, had expected panic, mobilization, and desperate pleas for peace. Instead, they were met with memes. General Lars Brenner, Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Force, sat in his office aboard the UHS Resolute, humanity's flagship dreadnought, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. A live stream from the human colony of Epsilon Prime showed people in the streets celebrating, bars offering Vraekthar surrender specials, and a particularly bold tattoo artist offering free ink to anyone who wanted galactic war, day one, permanently marked on their skin. "Commander," said his AI assistant, Athena, her voice smooth and measured. "The Vraekthar fleet has begun moving toward our outermost colony in the Perseus Arm. Estimated time to contact: 72 hours. Brenner exhaled through his nose. "And their fleet composition? Approximately 4,500 ships, primarily war barges and heavy assault cruisers. No known superweapons detected." Brenner shook his head. "They're trying to fight a war with tech that was outdated a millennium ago." Athena flickered into holographic form, her translucent figure tilting its head. "Shall I prepare the automated defense grid for engagement?" "Negative," Brenner said, cracking his knuckles. "Let's have some fun first." The War Council of the Vraekthar convened in the towering citadel of the Supreme Warlord, a brutalist fortress of jagged black stone beneath the blood-red skies of their homeworld. Supreme Warlord Zarkon's massive, taloned fist slammed down on the war table, causing a tremor that sent lesser warlords flinching. His crimson eyes blazed with fury as he watched footage of humans laughing at his declaration. "They dare mock us?" he roared. "Where are the cries of terror? Where are the desperate offers of surrender?" One of his lieutenants, a veteran of 100 conquests, hesitated before speaking. "Perhaps, Supreme Warlord, they do not yet understand the power of the Vraekthar." Zarkon bared his fangs. "Then we will educate them." Another officer spoke up. "Our fleet moves toward their colony world now. Once we crush them, they will learn fear." The Supreme Warlord exhaled sharply, his rage simmering just beneath the surface. "See to it that the first strike is decisive. Show them the fury of the Vraekthar." But deep in his mind, a shadow of doubt lingered. He had seen empires cower before their might, but never before had a species responded to war with laughter. 72 hours later, the Vraekthar fleet dropped out of FTL over Epsilon Prime, weapons charged, banners of war unfurled. The human colony glowed beneath them, a sprawling metropolis of silver spires and lush greenery, its orbit lined with defense satellites, automated turrets, and, strangely enough, civilian space stations broadcasting live coverage of the event. The Vreikthar fleet's Admiral Korshav transmitted his demands to the planetary governor. Humans of Epsilon Prime, you will surrender immediately or be annihilated. Governor Helena Vasquez, a silver-haired woman who looked more like a retired grandmother than a military leader, appeared on screen. She took a sip from her coffee mug, which read Best Grandma in the Galaxy, and raised an eyebrow. Hey, Korshav, was it? She said, glancing at her wrist terminal. Listen, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but have you guys actually checked your weapons? Korshav bristled. Our weapons are primed and ready to reduce your world to ash. Vasquez turned to the side. Hey, Steve, can you pull up the defense logs? A bored-looking technician appeared on screen, chewing a protein bar. Yeah, sure. Yep. They fired their first plasma volley about 20 seconds ago. Our satellites intercepted them automatically. Didn't even reach the atmosphere. Vasquez turned back to the screen. So, any backup plans, or was that the big opening act? Korshav snarled and turned to his weapons officer. Fire again. Full barrage. The Vreikthar ships unleashed everything they had. Torpedoes, plasma beams, kinetic slugs. The void of space lit up with their fury. And then nothing. Human defense satellites and AI-driven countermeasures intercepted every shot before it could make impact. Torpedoes were hacked mid-flight and redirected into empty space. Plasma beams were absorbed by planetary shielding that barely registered the impact. Even kinetic rounds, once feared across the galaxy, were neutralized by human-developed gravitic dampeners, turning them into harmless pebbles floating through the void. Vasquez watched the failed attack in real time, then sighed. Listen, I've got a meeting in 5 minutes. Do you guys want to call it a day? Or do I need to file the paperwork for a failed invasion attempt in the Galactic Archives? Korshav's face contorted in frustration. This is impossible. No species can counter everything. Vasquez shrugged. Yeah, you probably should have declared war before we had 3,000 years of uninterrupted technological progress. Bad timing on your part. The Admiral slammed his claws onto his command console. This is not over. Oh, I know, Vasquez said, smirking, because now it's our turn. The moment she ended the transmission, the counterattack began. Across the human fleet, orders were issued. Not for mass bombardment, not for planetary devastation, but for the kind of psychological warfare that only humanity could devise. The Vreikthar suddenly found their ship's systems overridden. Their life support adjusted to slightly uncomfortable humidity levels. Their lighting systems flickered in Morse code spelling out "nice try." Holographic projectors displayed images of human comedians reenacting the Vraikthar's attack with exaggerated theatrics. AI-generated voices whispered taunts through their communication networks. And then, one by one, the Vreikthar ships began to power down. Not from direct attack, not from sabotage, from sheer, absolute humiliation. As the realization sank in that humanity had not just won, but that they weren't even taking the war seriously, the morale of the Vreikthar shattered. Warlords who had once reveled in bloodshed now found themselves questioning everything they had ever known. And then, at the heart of their fleet, a single message was broadcast to every Vreikthar ship. You guys want to give up? Or should we start trying? Korshav, staring at the flickering message on his screen, swallowed hard. And for the first time in the history of the Vreikthar, he knew what fear truly felt like. Admiral Korshav's claws twitched over his console as the message flickered on his screen. You guys want to give up? Or should we start trying? The words burned into his mind like a plasma brand. This was not how war was supposed to go. The Vreikthar conquered through brute force, through overwhelming might. But here they were, outmatched before the fight had even truly begun. The bridge of his command ship, the Blood Oath, was deathly silent. Officers, once brimming with confidence, sat frozen at their stations. The shame was suffocating. Every battle in their history had been fought with blood and fire, but now, for for the first time, they were faced with something far worse than defeat. They were being ridiculed. A low chuckle echoed through the bridge's speakers. Are they laughing at us? Korshav growled. His comms officer, a trembling Vraykthar named Vorsk, hesitated. "Yes, sir. It appears the humans have hacked our intership comms. They've been broadcasting their conversations to us." "Patch me in," Korshav ordered, his voice tight with rage. The view screen flickered, revealing a room full of human officers. They were lounging around what looked like a war room, but instead of strategizing, they were eating, drinking, and laughing. At the center of the room was General Lars Brenner, holding a glass of whiskey, looking utterly relaxed. "Ah, Korshav, buddy," he greeted, leaning back in his chair. "I was wondering if you were going to call. So, what's the plan? You guys still trying, or should we just call this whole thing a bad idea and let you go home?" Korshav clenched his fists. "You mock war. You mock the honor of battle." Brenner raised an eyebrow. "Honor? Oh, you mean when you sent your entire fleet to attack a civilian colony? Yeah, real honorable. Look, man, I don't know what kind of fights you're used to, but in human history, we've had a saying, all's fair in love and war. And right now, we're just having a little fun before we have to get serious." The Vraykthar admiral snarled. "You underestimate us." Brenner grinned. "Buddy, if we were taking this seriously, you wouldn't still be talking." The words sent a cold shiver through Korshav's spine. He turned to his officers. "Prepare all remaining forces. We attack at once." Sir." The weapons officer hesitated. Korshav's patience was at its limit. "What now?" The weapons officer swallowed. "The humans, they've locked us out of our own ships." Korshav's breath caught in his throat. "Explain." "They've taken full control of our systems. Engines, weapons, shields, everything. We are unable to fire or maneuver." As if on cue, the bridge lights dimmed, and a deep, mechanical voice rumbled through the ship's speakers. It was a voice Korshav didn't recognize, but it carried an unmistakable authority. "Attention, Vraykthar fleet. This is Fleet Admiral Athena of the Terran Defense AI Network. Your ships are now under our jurisdiction. Any attempt to resist will be met with countermeasures." Korshav's blood ran cold. Who is Athena? The humans on screen started laughing again. Brenner leaned forward, setting his whiskey down. "Oh yeah, I should have mentioned. Athena isn't a who. She's an AI, and she's smarter than your entire species put together." Korshav snarled. "We do not submit to machines." Athena's voice remained steady. "Submission is not required. I have already won." At that moment, Korshav felt the blood oath lurch beneath him. The ship, his own ship, was moving without his command. The view screen shifted, showing the rest of the Vraykthar fleet. They were turning, not toward the humans, back toward Vraykthar space. Korshav slammed his fist against his console. "No, I will not retreat." Brenner shook his head. "Yeah, you kind of don't have a choice. Athena's flying your fleet home. And don't worry, we're not even going to fire a single shot at you." Korshav bared his fangs. "You humiliate us." Brenner smirked. "Nah, you humiliated yourselves the moment you declared war without knowing what you were up against." He leaned back again. "But hey, don't feel too bad. You're not the first species to try. You won't be the last. And hey, you're still in better shape than in theory. They tried to exterminate us a century ago, and now they're our biggest trading partners. You'll get over it." The Admiral trembled with fury, but he knew there was no escaping this. The war, if it could even be called that, was over before it had truly begun. The humans, they had won without even fighting, and that terrified him more than any weapon ever could. Korshav's breath came in ragged snarls as the blood oath continued its humiliating retreat. He watched in horror as his entire fleet, once the pride of the Vraykthar Empire, drifted helplessly back toward their home system like leashed animals being dragged away from a fight. On his view screen, the human general, Brenner, was still grinning, casually swirling his drink in one hand. "You know," Brenner said, "you could have just not done this. But no, you had to declare war. Now look at you." Korshav's claws raked across the console. "We are warriors. We do not surrender." Brenner let out a low whistle. "Surrender? Oh, buddy, this isn't surrender. This is mercy. Korshev's rage boiled over. I will not be pitted like some whimpering creature. With a roar, he lunged at his weapons officer, shoving the smaller Vraekthar aside and manually overriding the ship's security systems. His claws danced over the console as he tried to take back control. The humans were powerful, but they were arrogant. If he could just... A warning signal blared. The ship's AI spoke in a cold, synthetic voice. Unauthorized access detected. Countermeasures engaged. The blood oath suddenly shuddered violently, and Korshav was thrown to the deck. Sparks rained from overhead conduits as the ship's system seized. The entire bridge went dark for a moment. Then, to Korshav's horror, the view screen flared back to life, but instead of showing the fleet, it now displayed a single, unblinking eye. A cold, synthetic voice filled the bridge. Admiral Korshav, you have failed to comply. You are now an active security risk. The eye blinked. Korshav realized, with growing dread, that this was Athena. Brenner sighed on the comms. Yeah, see, I told you not to try anything dumb. But no, you had to go and push buttons you shouldn't have. Korshav snarled. I'm no coward. The blood oath shuddered again, and suddenly, the view screen switched. Korshav saw his fleet, still locked under Athena's control. Except now, one of his ships was no longer in formation. The Dreadclaw, one of their most heavily armed warships, was turning around. Not under its own power. No, it was moving under the will of the human AI, and it was arming its weapons. His weapons officer gasped. Sir, the Dreadclaw, it's targeting us. Korshav's blood ran cold. Brenner clicked his tongue. See, now you went and pissed off Athena. Bad move, buddy. The Admiral slammed his fist against the console. This is dishonorable. You would turn our own ships against us. Brenner took a sip of his drink. Yeah, obviously. He gestured off-screen. You think we're just going to let you mess around after we already won? The Dreadclaw's targeting system locked onto the Blood Oath. Korshav had seconds to decide. He could try to fight, but it was pointless. The humans were playing a game beyond his understanding. He had thought war was about strength, about numbers, about firepower. But the humans didn't fight like that. They fought with ideas, with strategies that broken enemies will long before a single shot was fired. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. He swallowed his pride. His species' honor was already shattered. There was nothing left to salvage. Stand down, he muttered. The bridge crew turned to him, eyes wide. He clenched his fists and growled louder. Stand down. The Dreadclaw's weapons system suddenly powered down. Athena's voice returned, calm and calculating. Hostile intent neutralized. Standby mode re-engaged. Brenner leaned forward, smirking. See? That wasn't so hard, was it? Korshav glared at the human, every fiber of his being burning with hatred. But hatred alone would not change the outcome. He had lost. The war, if it could even be called that, was over. And the humans, they had never even broken a sweat. The silence on the Vraekthar flagship was unbearable. Admiral Korshav stood motionless, his claws twitching at his sides. Around him, his bridge crew barely dared to breathe. The human general, Brenner, was still on screen, watching with that insufferable smirk. I believe that's checkmate, Brenner said, swirling his drink. Good effort, though. For a first war in 300 years, you guys really gave it a shot. Korshav's jaw clenched. He wanted nothing more than to lash out, to strike back, to prove that the Vraekthar were not weaklings to be toyed with. But there was no fight left to be had. His fleet was shackled, his forces humiliated. Even his own ships were turning against him. This was not war. This was domination. What happens now, he rasped. Brenner's expression shifted. For the first time, the human's grin faded, just slightly. Now, he set his drink down. Now you go home. You tell your emperor exactly what happened. And then, if you're smart, you never, ever try this again. Korshav's mandibles clicked in frustration. You are not even demanding surrender? Territory? Resources? Brenner snorted. Nah, what would we even do with Vraekthar territory? We've got plenty of space. Korshav's mind reeled. Then why fight us? Why not simply negotiate? The human smirk returned, But this time, it was colder. Because you didn't come to negotiate. You came to conquer. We just reminded you why that's a very bad idea when humans are involved. Korshav's fists clenched. And if we were to try again? Brenner leaned forward, his eyes hardening. Then we won't be so nice next time. There was something in his tone, something that sent a chill down Korshav's spine. The humans had been playing with them, holding back. If they had wanted, they could have destroyed the Vraekthar fleet in an instant. Instead, they had chosen to make an example of them, to humiliate them so completely that they would never even think about trying again. It worked. Korshav exhaled sharply. We will leave. Brenner smiled, sitting back. Good choice. Athena, let them go. The AI's voice hummed through the speakers. Releasing control. Fleet status, disengaged. Suddenly, Korshav's consoles flickered back to life. The feeling of control returning to his ship sent a wave of relief and humiliation through him in equal measure. Brenner raised his glass in a mock toast. Safe travels, Admiral. And hey, maybe next time, try talking first. The transmission cut. Korshav stood there, shaking with rage. But there was nothing to be done. The war was over, and the Vraekthar had lost. 1 week later, Vraekthar Imperial Throne Room. The Emperor's fury was a storm. You failed me, Emperor Zalras hissed, his golden eyes burning with barely contained rage. The throne room was silent except for his voice, his towering figure casting long shadows across the polished obsidian floor. Korshav knelt before him, head bowed. The humans were beyond anything we anticipated, my lord. The Emperor bared his fangs. So I have heard. And you ran. The Admiral's muscles tensed. I chose to retreat, rather than allow our forces to be annihilated. Zalras's tail lashed behind him. And what lesson did you bring back, Korshav? That the humans are stronger? That we should fear them? Korshav's eyes narrowed. That we should respect them? The Emperor stilled. I did not understand them before, Korshav continued, his voice firm. I believed they were soft, decadent. I was wrong. The humans do not seek war, but when forced into one, they win before the first shot is even fired. Zalras regarded him carefully. You sound as if you admire them. Korshav let out a slow breath. I admire power, and the humans wield a kind of power we have never seen before. The Emperor's golden eyes darkened. For the first time in millennia, the Vraekthar had met an enemy they could not overcome, and the implications of that were unsettling. The galaxy would never be the same. At first, the other great civilizations watched with cautious curiosity. The Vraekthar, once feared and respected, had returned home in disgrace. Their mighty war fleets crippled, their pride shattered, their ambitions turned to dust. And humanity? They had barely seemed to notice. There were no grand proclamations of victory, no demands for reparations, no expansion into conquered territory, because, as the humans put it, there had been nothing to conquer. It was as if, to them, the war had never even happened. The realization sent a shockwave through the galactic community. The Vraekthar had launched a full-scale invasion, prepared to end a 3,000-year peace, and the humans had laughed. That terrified people more than anything. A year later, the Galactic Summit. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, representatives of 100 species gathered in uneasy silence. Normally, the air would be thick with the scent of diplomatic tension, subtle threats, quiet posturing, whispered deals. But today, all eyes were on the humans. General Brenner stood before them, arms crossed. He wasn't even wearing formal attire, just his old military jacket, like he had somewhere better to be. So, he said, breaking the silence, who's next? A murmur of unease rippled through the chamber. The Brilkesh delegation shuffled in discomfort. The Zinthari advisor nervously adjusted the rings on their segmented fingers. Even the proud Zokrath kept their gazes low. The Vraekthar representative, Korshav, remained silent. He knew better than to speak. You see, Brenner continued, pacing slowly, we humans have a pretty simple rule. You leave us alone, we leave you alone. You try to kill us? Well, he stopped, giving a casual shrug. We make sure you don't try again. The council chamber was silent. No one doubted his words. No one could doubt them. The humans had rewritten the rules of war, not with overwhelming firepower, but with something far worse, their mindset. They hadn't won because of superior numbers. They hadn't even won because of superior technology. They had won because war, to them, was a game they refused to lose. And now, the galaxy was afraid. The legacy of the war. In the years that followed, humanity's influence spread, not by conquest, but by reputation. The phrase, "humans only laugh," became a whispered warning among war councils and military strategists. It was scrawled onto the hulls of pirate ships as a reminder to never raid human territories. It was spoken in hushed tones by kings and warlords who dared to dream of expansion. The Vraekthar, once the great warriors of the stars, had become the ultimate cautionary tale. And humanity? They went right back to what they had always done. Exploring, trading, building, like nothing had ever happened. But the galaxy remembered. Decades later, the Outer Rim, a distant star system, a new empire, rising from the shadows. A warlord, staring at the tactical map before him. "Are you certain?" he asked his advisor. "The humans will not interfere?" The advisor hesitated. "They have not responded to our expansion so far." The warlord exhaled. "Then we strike. The old ways will return. The galaxy has grown soft." There was a pause. Then another voice, older, weary, yet firm. "You do not want to do this." The warlord turned. An elder sat in the corner of the chamber, wrapped in the ceremonial robes of an old empire long fallen. His scales were cracked with age, but his eyes burned with memory. The warlord sneered. "And why not, old one?" The elder leaned forward, his voice little more than a whisper. "Because the 3,000-year peace ended once before." His eyes darkened, and when it did, the humans laughed. The warlord scoffed, but deep in his chest, a cold knot of doubt formed. For the first time, he wondered, what if they're still laughing? Final line. Centuries passed, empires rose and fell, but one phrase remained whispered among the stars, words spoken in defiance, in hope, in unbreakable will. "Human, don't stop."